Hello. It's that time of the year again, isn't it? We are drawing towards the end of 2023. The beginning of 2024 is in sight over the horizon. And so it's time, I think, to get a little bit retrospective. And I want to just talk in this video about the best albums of 2023. Now, this is entirely subjective, so I'm hoping that you're going to have another chunk of best albums of 2023. And I have been looking at some of the lists that the newspapers and magazines provide, which is interesting and it's kind of informative. And one of the things that is very clear to me when I look at my own five albums I'm going to recommend to you as best albums of 2023 is four of them are by very established artists, and I'm very aware of the fact that it's pretty rare at the moment for me to really discover something completely new. And I think I've just sort of given myself a New Year resolution, which is to listen to more new music because if you go looking for brand new music, and there are lots of ways to do that, obviously, by just listening to the radio a bit more, by checking out all the new releases on Spotify, whatever, however you do it. If you go looking, you will find, there will be something that you'll find that, will really be inspirational to you, and you do just have to spend a bit of time looking. And that's great in itself, but I think also if you're a songwriter, musician of some kind, if you're in the kind of music creation game, it's pretty useful, if not absolutely essential, to know what is going on, to know what the sounds are that people are making, to know what the trends are, to understand, where the zeitgeist is going. And as one gets older, one does find that more and more difficult. So I'm aware that when I look through, say, The Guardian's list of best albums of 2023, there are quite a lot of artists in there that I've actually never heard of. I've never heard of the album, I've never heard of the artist. So I've got to declare that pretty much straight away. So my own five albums that I want to recommend to you are interesting. And look, they're really good. You're not going to go wrong with them, but there might be a million others that I just haven't quite got round to hearing. And, and I might hear them in a few years' time, but by then it's a little bit late to offer them as recommendations in 2023. Okay, how about we have a look and see what is in my list? I've done this before. In the old days, I probably was, confident enough to give people, top tens of albums they must listen to, and I'd be very opinionated about the whole thing. Maybe even top 20s. I'm reduced now to five, and I don't even want to put them in an order because I think that'd be unfair, and anyway, it's a bit sort of pointless. So here are five really good albums from 2023 that I think you would enjoy, particularly you. So what do we got? Let's do this in chronological order from the date that they came out. So I'm going to start with the one on this list, the one artist, artists on this list that I have not heard of until recently, with an album that I didn't know about until even a few weeks ago. Now, this actually came out in February of 2023. I'd never heard of them. They are a trio from Scotland, in fact, called Young Fathers, and the album is called Heavy Heavy. And they are eclectic, to say the least, to put it mildly. Quite hard to distinguish what genre they are, but they are playing around with hip hop and rap and rock and pop and jazzy things, and it's a really, really good album. Now, look, I've only been listening to it very recently, so I'm a bit loath to pontificate madly about what the whole kind of gist is and how it really touches the soul. But it's great, and it is, I think, their fourth or fifth album. They've been around a while. They won the Mercury Prize best part of 10 years ago, and I've only really just sort of heard about them terribly recently. So that's a very sad admission on my part. So I'm sorry, Young Fathers, I didn't realise. But Heavy Heavy is a fine album. It's quite a short album. There are a couple here that are quite short, but really worth spending 35 minutes in their company. And it's it's quite a ride. So it's loud, it's brash, it's really varied. It's hard to precisely give you what genre they're working in. It's all over the place, and it's all the more enjoyable for all of that. It was a it did get in the UK album top 10 because I was just kind of curious and I went and looked that up. Not for very long, but it did. And so, they're on the map and doing better and better. I hope they carry on releasing stuff that's as unpredictable and as fun as this album. So that's Heavy Heavy Young Fathers. That came out in February. Next up then, in April, all the rest of these are artists that I'm much sort of more familiar with, and none more so than Everything But The Girl with their latest album that came out in April. Now, alongside one of the other artists to feature on this list, there's been a very long gap from the last album to this one that came out in 2023. So the last album that before this one was Temperamental by Everything But The Girl, came out in 1999, and I remember that because I love it, and I love it with a crazy passion, and it's probably my favourite of all of the Everything But The Girl albums. And I know that's kind of unfashionable. I think you're not supposed to like the last one they did before this one, but I do. So I just want to say that as a bit of context, because listening to Fuse, I think it's really good, but I do tend to compare it back to Temperamental, and I think that's probably unfair, and I shouldn't. So Temperamental still stands alone as my absolute favourite of that kind of brilliant, sad voice that Tracy Thorn has on top of those, electronic, housey kind of doodlings that Ben Watt puts in there. I mean, it always sounds great that the human voice on a very electronic background does something interesting, and well, Tracy Thorn's got a very good human voice. What you'll notice is it's still very electronic. The track's quite short, and Tracy Thorn's voice has dropped a little bit, but it's just very rich, and it's a thoroughly lovely album, and it's kind of dealing with being a bit older, actually, which is good. I'm not very keen on artists who, as they get older, pretend they're getting younger. Madonna, sorry. So it's nice to see people actually, acting their age. There we go. That's Everything But The Girl. The album's called Fuse. Came out in April. It's very good. Go and check it out. Okay, next up, came out in the summer, this one. Came out in June. Christine and the Queens. The album's called Paranoia, Angels, True Love. It's like a triple album. So this one's not short. And there hasn't been a very long wait from the last album. But so this, I think, is their fourth album, Christine and the Queens. And I think possibly their best. Now, I think I've talked about Christine and the Queens once before on Adventures. And I'm not really sure when it comes to making music if Christine and the Queens is just Chris, as he's now known, or whether there's actually a whole band there. I'm a bit unclear as to what the kind of personnel is. But Christine has become Chris, she's become he, and that's probably been, that's pretty profound in itself. And here we are with this album, Paranoia, Angels, True Love. It's dealing with grief, love, and all sorts. It's not necessarily the easiest listen. There's quite a lot of trauma and sadness in there, but I would say it's worth it. And some of the tracks are absolutely beautiful. So check it out. Triple album, as I say. Came out in June. Chris and the Queens, Paranoia, Angels, True Love. By the way, if you're enjoying this and you're enjoying the series, do subscribe and follow and all those things, because you're exactly the kind of person I think would enjoy this, and I'm doing it for you, so why not? All right, we've got a couple more to go, and this is in no order other than chronological, so I'm not trying to do 5 down to 1, because that would just be silly. I think I'd be guessing even what I like. So what we've got left, okay. In October, out came an album by Troye Sivan. He is an Australian pop star doing increasingly well around the world. I've been kind of following his stuff for 7 or 8 years now, I think. This album is called Something to Give Each Other. And, well, what can I say? This is a young pop star making young pop star music, and it's very pop. And I would need to say, I think, very gay as well, because he's become more and more kind of overt in singing songs about his sexuality, and he's certainly out loud and proud, and all the better for it, please. So even though he's Australian, it's a really good album, and it's he's really upfront about all aspects of sex and sexuality, and that seems to be basically the preoccupation of Troye Sivan. And as I say, it is pop and light, and he's gone from making music in his bedroom, I think, when he first started, just like really quite basic, but he always had a really clear kind of pop sensibility, a good pop voice, and he writes interesting songs, and I think he's just maturing and getting better as he goes along. So this is a good album. Something to Give Each Other came out in October. His name is Troye Sivan. Check it out. And finally, well, I would say again now, this is something I've only listened to recently, and the reason for that is it only came out at the beginning of December, so I haven't had that much time with this. But I would like to bring to your attention the album called I-O by Peter Gabriel. And rather like Everything But the Girl, there's been a very long gap since the last album. It's been about 20 years since Peter Gabriel last released original music, new material. So the album came out the 1st of December. It's, a lot of the tracks are kind of 5 minutes, 6 minutes long. And I mention that because that is going obviously kind of against the grain of, today's pop hits. And he's doing what he does, and he's doing it really, really well. So it's an immaculately produced, beautiful sounding album. His voice is as good and as rich as has ever been, whether he's, doing his loud voice or his almost whispering voice that's right up in your ear. It's unmistakably Peter Gabriel, and, kind of the sound has not changed particularly over the years, which I say is a very good thing. But what's noticeable is, some really good songwriting here. And some of it sounds kind of sad and reflective. And once again, I think what he's doing, rather like Everything But the Girl, is reflecting the fact that he's now, well into his 70s, and he's singing songs that are from the perspective of a man well into his 70s. And I think that's all the more to respect. So I highly recommend that. I can't tell you that much about it yet because, as I say, it's only been a week or two that I've started listening to that. If I tried to do this list a few weeks ago, I think I wouldn't be able to talk to you about Young Father's Heavy Heavy, and I certainly wouldn't have heard the Peter Gabriel album. I'd only be giving you 3. I probably wouldn't even do this episode. But it's nice to have 5 albums to tell you about. So look, there you are. That's my Christmas present to you, is to say, check out these 5. It's easy, isn't it? You just have to go and listen to them on your favourite streaming service. But they're all good. They all have something to offer. They're quite different from each other. And they would make a fine Christmas playlist for you. And you can forget all your Mariah Careys and Michael Bublé's, please. Listen, I'll probably see the other side of Christmas now. I'm going to have lots more new music coming out in the new year. For those of you who have been following recent episodes, I would like to also tell you that I'm now able to do Facebook advertising for my music on Spotify. That was a real problem for about 2 months. It just drove me completely mad. Madness has abated, and that's now working okay. And as I say, lots more music coming in the new year. You take it easy, and whatever it is that you do at this time of year, whether it's Christmas or anything else, do it well. Have a good one. Stay safe. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.